What is up, down, and sideways, you beautiful individuals? We are back here on League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you guys. Listen, the content makes itself. We don't even have to do anything. Every day there's more bombs that are getting dropped that were dropped. We're still a few weeks away from free agency kicking off, but most recently it's your boy Travis Gafford Industries. You know, if there's LCS offseason drama, he's the guy who's going to be dropping it.
And he's going to be there. And, well, you know what? He's saying that there's got a lot of stuff going on, locking it in. And, my man, it is juicy stuff to talk about. The best time of year in the League of Legends scene. You got the competitiveness of the World Championship. But, of course, we got the juicy drama of the offseason still going.
Hey, forget that the finals hasn't even happened. I think people just already assumed that Dom won the whole thing. But, yeah, we got to get to that still. But, yeah. Travis Gafford, and obviously we've been talking Team Liquid rumors almost 2 weeks now, it feels like. But the latest and greatest, I thought that the core JJ green card was going to be more of an issue, which is why, Jensen role swapping if Bjergsen and Whip are coming over. That made sense, maybe just holding on to tactical. But now, this dream looks like it may be coming true, that Hans Sama, the ridiculous buyout rumors we've heard of close to $8 million or something ludicrous for that, the Disney money might be coming in for Steve and Team Liquid, and you get Hans Sama playing alongside Core JJ. Then you're looking at the Bwipo, Santorin, Bjergsen, Hans Sama, Core JJ. That is a dream-looking team, especially in North America.
It's finally been done. It is finally time to examine a North American lineup featuring nothing but imports at the very
we made it.
bottom.
It's the end game now.
We're finally here, guys, and this is what it looks like. Team Liquid, and I think I saw a poll was being put out. I can't remember exactly by who, but they were talking about what is the ceiling for this type of roster. Not what your expectation is, where you're predicting them to be, all these type of things where you can start putting some of that historic NA bad performances, the doubts, the underachievements towards it. But looking at what could be if they're at their very best, this is one of those teams where you have to say that getting a win in that best of 8, in that final towards that knockout rounds of the World Championship, that has to be the goal. That has to be, for this type of lineup, as established as they all are, the amount of money poured on in, the attention, that's gotta be the goal. And you know what? With these 5, I'd believe it as the top ceiling potential.
And we're the earliest of early days. I think Travis was saying close to 90% that he thinks this is going to be the roster. I know he's got a lot of insider knowledge. He knows a lot of people behind the scenes with these squads. I'm still slightly hesitant that the core JJ green card thing isn't going to go as smoothly. They think it's going to be an easy process, or they've done all the legwork, the research to know that it'll be coming through, confident enough to be pursuing Hans Sama, obviously. You're still on paper with this squad. Only Santorin and Core JJ have ever played together before, so that's immediately something you've got to look at when there's 3 brand new players coming into a roster, even if they are the greatest teammates of all time. But if this is the starting 5 for Team Liquid, they are immediately number 1 on the LCS power rankings.
We can't forget about Bjergsen and Santorin. They got a little bit of
that's
synergy
true. They got
with
history.
The Team Liquid
that's
roster.
Right.
That's a possibility. But you're right that it is going to be still a mishmash of ideas and ideologies, right? Every team is to some degree, but really when you look at a lot of the members of this team, you're talking about complete opposite ends of the spectrum and trying to get that middle ground, talking about and understanding one another. That's going to be where you need to grind it out in the preseason, in your boot camps, in your scrims, that type of nature. To develop that team chemistry is going to be a vital part of seeing how excellent this Team Liquid roster can be. Because again, all of these individual players are fantastic, skilled in so many mechanical and mental ways that's what you're going for. But it doesn't matter if you're not able to put it all together at the same time. You don't got to look too far. We're going to see it tomorrow with Damn One Gaming and the way that they play. It's not just about that raw skill. It's the synergy, the chemistry, the communication that goes with it, pushes you over that elite level.
And what this is going to do for Team Liquid is they're going to be the favorites for the LCS, but also what's happening with Jensen, because he just had a great Worlds performance. The main rumor before this had been the role swap to AD carry to bring Bjergsen in and have him and Jensen play together, which was a crazy premise in itself. But if that's not going to be the case, well, then Jensen is probably going to be one of the most sought after available mid laners on the LCS market. I've seen the main link and maybe potential is a reunition with Cloud9, going back there and filling in the spot that Perks just left. I don't know how things left on Cloud9, if that's something Jensen would want to do, but that might be his best option now going forward.
It really is certainly a possibility, and we've seen them memeing back at each other on Twitter, both
Jensen knows how to craft a tweet. I'll give him that.
Absolutely. Mastermind on the Twitterverse. It is a very interesting proposition to talk about Jensen and where he is going to be in this free agency, because you're right. Coming off of this past Worlds, there's no way that you're not looking at him as one of the premier top level options in North America and what you could be getting. And then you also look back at the track record of what he has done and accomplished as the only really accomplished mid laner internationally for North America. And you're right that he's going to have some negotiating power and where he wants to go, and certainly going to be looking at a lot of the top level teams. And one of those teams that will be looking to retool and be in that area is Cloud9. And I think that there's not too much bad blood, bad memories of the time on that C9 roster that he would not be willing to go back and join forces with Jack and crew.
And especially when you have, potential other option, because Bjergsen's coming back into the fray after a year of coaching. Now, again, a bomb from Travis Gafford. And when he talks about sources related to Doublelift, I feel like the man's just talking to Doublelift. Obviously, these guys have so much history. He got Doublelift's playing career going, but now he's saying that there's a decent chance that Doublelift is going to be unretiring. And if you've watched any of his streams or co-streams, it sounds like this is the furthest thing from possible, because all he's ushering and saying on his stream time and time again is, no, there's no reason, there's no motivation for me to come back from the LCS. I don't care about winning title number 9. All I want is success on the international stage. And that's why, if this Hans Sama thing does fall through with Team Liquid, well, that's it. That's your opportunity to go back there.
Yeah, that is a juicy opportunity, my man. And yes, as much as we want to talk about the motivation and everything else, an opportunity to join what this rumored Team Liquid roster would be if everything falls through, with Hans saddling up again with Core JJ, pretty much the only tier of support in North America that Doublelift would consider to try coming back for. Absolutely a very juicy type of opportunity, and one of those ones that I think gets a lot of people really dreaming and thinking about what type of roster could be put together in that type of situation for a Team Liquid. But I'm going to say, what about on the flip side? What if we go to the dark side of the LCS and we say, hey, you've been on TSM, Team Liquid. What about another elite team joining forces with your former mid laner Jensen, not Bjergsen, on Cloud9? What about that?
Yeah, that's honestly the more realistic if he is coming back. The only way he's going to Team Liquid is if something falls through with Hans Sama, because that's priority number 1, obviously, now it looks like for TL. So assuming everything goes according to plan there, then yeah, Cloud9 is looking like the best option for him. And Jensen's been memeing on Twitter. We've seen Doublelift and Vulcan joining in on the McDonald's memes and threads going on Twitter. And we've seen Doublelift duoing with Vulcan in solo queue. So then, if you're keeping Fudge and Blabber, you bring back Jensen. Doublelift, his first time on Cloud9, paired up with Vulcan. Vulcan's probably the only other support that I could see Doublelift being like, yep, absolutely happy playing with him.
Yeah, and as you mentioned earlier, there is that concern that when you go back, 1-2 months ago, you can listen to Doublelift talk about the rumors about Bjergsen, unretiring, coming back, and then mentioning what it would take for him to leave the streamer life and get back to playing professionally. And he said, well, what's going to be the motivation, right? He's won LCS. Dominating the LCS doesn't mean anything to him anymore. It's about getting international success. That's what he wants. You talk about that type of scenario with Team Liquid, you can envision a potential for international success and wanting to come back and try with that, sure. But as this Cloud9 one, this opportunity that we're talking about that seems more realistic if Doublelift was to come back, still does provide that avenue for international success, and one that I think, from Doublelift's perspective, sitting on the sidelines and watching Cloud9 this past split, you could see a lot of that potential. Talking about players like Fudge, what Blabber had that bounce back at an international event. Jensen, of course, as we just talked about with Team Liquid. And then, of course, Vulcan. You cannot forget about our boy, the French-Canadian, down in the bottom lane, and the great things that he has been doing, through the star moments that he has had throughout MSI and at the World Championship. This could be one of those opportunities again that Doublelift talks about.
And then all of a sudden the question switches to Cloud9, because, you know, Doublelift is obviously the most iconic AD carry, one of the most iconic players in LCS history and Western history, really. But he's been off for a year. Are you still up to that professional level? These are the questions you got to ask for Cloud9. I think you want to see some scrims with him before you're ever committing to him being your starter.
Yeah, that is certainly going to be a very important thing, that they do a complete due diligence. They make sure everything is fully lined up, fully motivated and driven and determined for it. And absolutely, if he is coming back, Doublelift is that type of player that I know, memes, streaming, everything else aside, if he's locking himself in to be a professional player for that split, putting his career reputation on the line every time he steps on stage, you better believe that he'll be locked in and fully committed for it.
That's a Cloud9 roster that, could you believe it, Mark? 3 resident NA players? 3 domestic NA players? That's
Liquid would never. No way.
That's way too many. That's more than half the squad. So that means Cloud9 is doomed for failure if that is what that roster ends up being. The other potential squad people have mentioned is Evil Geniuses for Doublelift. The only way I possibly see that happening is if Danny gets poached from some other squad. But the juicier rumor with Evil Geniuses, and we've heard Inspired linked to coming to the LCS. He joked about the EU weather is no fun, but as Perks and Alfari return to EU, it looks like Hans Sama and Inspired might be leaving. Svenskeren and contracts Mr. Gafford believes are out from EG, and Inspired is the tastiest looking rumor right now.
And not a 1-for-1, 2-for-2 type of trade. Alfari and Perks going over, Inspired Hans Sama, but you better believe no NA fan should be in their right mind complaining about having
it's
Inspired
double
Hans
lose
Sama.
for Rogue. What do they get in this play? I guess they get the buyout money.
We can have the funeral for Rogue later, my man. Oh, we can have it when we do a Rogue versus TSM matchup.
There we go. Yeah, they might be more even now.
To talk about Inspired with Evil Geniuses, I love it, because you know what it is to me? It's a full-on, finally coming full circle to what EG wanted when they acquired Svenskeren from Cloud9. They never really got that MVP level performance from him for the team. And then even throughout the time of trying to get contracts up to speed, it's not quite at that level that EG needs to be at to compete at the very top of the LCS, to oust teams like Cloud9, Team Liquid, 100 Thieves, TSM, to be better than all them. That's what it takes, is getting to that next level. And Inspired is absolutely the full commitment to having that level of skill from your jungler, that level of proficiency. That is what Inspired brings to the Evil Geniuses roster.
If this does end up happening, it's just another example of contracts being almost meaningless in the LoL esports scene, because it's going to not have even been 2 months ago that Rogue made this whole nice video signing Inspired. He's there signing the contract right through to 2023. And then 2 months later, we're talking about him joining the LCS.
The almighty power of the American dollar bill. That's all it takes.
And if they do end up losing both Inspired and Hans Sama, even with the rumors of this crazy buyout money for especially Hans Sama, I mean, great, Rogue pockets a lot of money, but what does it do to your fan base? What does it do to your competitiveness in the entire scene? Maybe, the money from those contracts trumps that for them.
And you know what? Maybe you're saving up, pulling a Vitality, and 3-4 years down the line, we're talking about, oh my God, what geniuses Rogue were to save all that money and put it together towards this mega lineup. I don't think that's the history that we're going to be talking about in the future. This is quite a blow to the Rogue organization, and certainly one that is a sour note. It's a downside to what we have seen in the past 2 years, really, of consistent growth from this Rogue team that seemed to stall out towards that just just short of that top position in the LEC. They got all the way up to 2, 3, and they just fall short of ever getting to that top spot in that era. And it seems like this is the time where it's going to be blown up and dismantled.
And on the opposite, it's EG looking for a retooling. It sounds like Impact is going to be staying. I don't see Danny leaving, which kind of kills the Doublelift rumors.
I hope he doesn't. I hope he doesn't.
I hope he doesn't either. And it sounds like Ignar might be staying as well. Think of that, what you want. But Danny, Ignar, Impact staying, Inspired potentially coming. Then the mid lane is a toss-up for EG. Is Jizuke returning? I feel like...
Is it EG Chovy?
Yeah, that one's always going to be a meme possibility. But otherwise, if Power of Evil's not going to Cloud9, I feel like he's got a good spot here. Whichever of PoE and Jensen doesn't go to Cloud9, I feel like the other's the front runner to end up on EG.
Yeah, they're a perfect type of situation. And I know, obviously, you'd be looking at a much more complicated situation to bring in someone like Humanoid, because then you'd start having to juggle around imports and figure that out. But absolutely, there is no doubt and no shortage of good mid laners for this EG roster, and talented enough mid laners that can propel EG into that competitive territory with a Team Liquid, with the Cloud9, hypothetical 100 Thieves, that type of area. That's where you want to be. Signing a Jensen, signing a PoE absolutely puts you in that territory now that you've got Inspired in the jungle.
And, they can slot in right outside that big top 3, 4 in the LCS, because Travis also briefly mentioned 100 Thieves. It sounds like the core of that roster is going to be still together, and that's the defending champion. So even with all these other moves, if 100 Thieves stay mostly intact, you still got to be talking about them as contenders.
Yeah, and absolutely. And they deserve their share of hype and excitement for next year based off what they accomplished this year and the potential for that growth in the continuing splits, looking at FBI and Huhi as a bottom lane, continuing to develop themselves and how they've been able to perform. And they did fantastic, I think, individually as a bottom lane at this past World Championship. You're looking at Abadaga getting more accustomed to North America. It's good and bad, of course, but more so with the 100 Thieves organization and his teammates is a good thing. And then you're talking about Closer and Someday in that top side. You're getting a lot from them next year. You better believe it. There still is a lot of positives with this 100 Thieves. And I know the flash, the excitement of these Team Liquid announcements, Cloud9 potential, all this type of stuff might take away from it. Sit pretty and be patient, my man. You guys have got a good squad, and it's going to be a good year next year.
And really, listen, NA teams, I think it's the least disappointing year at Worlds that they've had in a few years, which, again, is a very low standard to hit. But if 100 Thieves are kept intact, this Team Liquid roster, Cloud9 has an opportunity, Evil Geniuses, you might be looking at an actually high level of competition in North America. I know it's crazy to say heading into 2022. We just got to change the NA versus EU rivalry, because it's just the LCS versus the LEC. Both of them have almost full EU rosters.
And you know what? As much as, again, they're going to meme on the LCS in that type of sense, there's no denying that once we got to the playoffs, and outside of having 6, 7, 8 teams in the playoffs competing, once you got away from those matches,
the top 4,
they were intense. They were good series to watch through in these playoffs. You could remove the LCS title, and maybe outside of a couple bonkers wacky plays, you could say that it was any region in the world type of situation. And that's what you're looking at from these very top teams, being able to compete, being able to push the top level teams around the world. Cloud9 has shown us that they're capable of it. It's about finding that consistency to be able to compete at that level all the time.
We look on track for the top 4 in the LCS to, again, be very competitive and a high level of play. And also, spoilers, TSM not going to be in that top 4. TSM not going to be there.
In before TSM Chovy. Here we go.
No, don't do it, Chovy.
I'm just throwing Chovy at every LCS team possible.
Reggie says, I will give you 51% of the team solo mid organization. Is that enough?
You know that Bjergsen statue? We're going to just slide in a Chovy statue right beside it.
That's a bigger one that's going to stand right in front of it, and you won't even see the Bjergsen.
Did you ever want to meet Steph Curry? We can try and work that out.
Chovy says,
we probably won't.
Who?
TS what? Oh, okay.
Jovi, stay away from the LCS. We don't want you tainted by this region. But that is it today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. We will catch you guys and gals on that flippity flip.